gosh.
Oh, hamstring. Sniper, take the other picture.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you can formulate opinions without having true facts.
I'm telling you, think about it logically for just a second.
Dear Reds fans,
welcome back to the Zebra Zillionaires. It was a tough one yesterday.
Live from Chatterbox Sports Studios, it's Off the Bench with Tom Brenneman.
Well, a pleasant good Tuesday morning to you. This is Off the Bench. I'm Trace Fowler, and this is presented by United Dairy Farmers. What'd you watch last night? Can I be honest for a second? I'll be honest with you. I didn't watch a single snap of either Monday Night Football game. I know there was two of them, not a single snap of either game. Something about the Panthers versus the Saints and the Browns versus the Steelers just didn't quite do it for me. Especially when you add on the fact that the Reds are obviously trying to make the postseason. The biggest headline of the night in sports came out of Pittsburgh. Nick Chubb appears to have ended his career. I know that sounds a little bit demonstrative, but injuries are by far, to me, the worst thing in sports. I feel bad for Nick Chubb. I feel bad for the running backs in the NFL right now. They're going to have to do something about that position group when it comes to injuries because ultimately they're underpaid and then they're already sought out and they know what they're worth. The NFL, the ownership groups, the general managers have figured out what the running back groups are worth, and it's just not enough based off the production level that they provide for a few years, but that's here nor there. The Redlegs just keep on winning, don't they? I've had them dead multiple times. You've had them dead multiple times, but they just find a way to keep winning. Why? I don't know. They defeat the Twins 7-3, and a big reason why, well, that's because of Connor Phillips. Phillips went 7 innings, allowed 2 runs, struck out 7. The 2 runs just came off solo jobs, by the way. Spencer Steer had 3 hits with an RBI. Joseph Votto. Some call him Joseph Daniel Votto. Some call him JV19. Some call him the GOAT. 2 hits. 2 monster hits. Both came against lefties. 2 RBIs. And the biggest hit of the game. He had the biggest hit of the game. Reds were up 5-2. Bases loaded. Nobody out. You felt like for the first time in a long time, the Reds had a chance to pile on. Maybe give David Bell and the bullpen a stress-free night. No worries. Give some guys some innings they need. And Tyler Stevenson walks up to the plate, grounds into a 5-2-3 double play. For those that don't know how to keep score, that would be the third baseman to the catcher to the first baseman. If you've watched baseball before, you realize that nobody scored in that situation. So Votto would come up with a man on second and third, 2 outs. And to defy all logic, David Bell would decide to leave him in to face a lefty. Now, whether you want to argue, whether you think that that's the right spot for Joey Votto to hit, that's here nor there. But it defies the logic that David Bell has used all season long. CES was sitting on the bench, decided to keep Votto in there, and Votto would deliver. He'd line, whether you want to call it a line drive, a ground ball, that's beside the point. It would basically just get past the outstretched arms of Twins first baseman, Twins first baseman Kirilloff. The Reds would extend their lead to 7-2. That would be wildly important. That was a massive hit. We'll get to that just after Locals at 11. Reds talk will be at length today just after Locals at 11. Speaking of locals, did you see the arena renderings? We've been calling for it for a long time. Our good friend and known quitter, Paul Fritchner, would be ecstatic about the site plans. Is this real? Is it just fluff? That will come just after our picks, mailbag, a stink list. We'll do the renderings. We'll do our locals at 11. And we'll do the Reds. We'll have a nice local show right around the 11 o'clock hour. And as I mentioned, fellas, I watched every single pitch of the Red Legs. I did not watch a single snap of either football game. Outside of Nick Chubb, I'm sure I missed a lot. What did I miss?
Well, good morning, Trace. Hi, my name's Nicholas Reed Mouse. I'm 27 years old. I would say I'm fairly masculine, fairly manly, and I slept with my daddy in his bed till I was 13 years old. So, yeah, those are two conflicting things. But you didn't miss a whole lot of action last night, other than the Browns just being the Browns. I mean, they had two turnovers for easy touchdowns. The first play of the line of scrimmage was a pick six, and then they lost the game because they fumbled, and T.J. Watt picked it up and scooped and scored. The Browns somehow just browned their way every game except for against the Bengals. But despite how ugly that game was yesterday, I have a weird feeling that the AFC North's going to get 3 teams in the postseason. I just got a weird feeling about it. It might be wrong, probably is, but I just got a weird feeling about it.
Yeah, the games last night were terrible. I chose to watch all 3. We were flipping back and forth and back and forth. The Saints-Panthers game, Roger Goodell manages to find some of the worst teams in the sport to play on these Monday night, Thursday night days. It's horrible. I mean, the Saints and Panthers, that game was the worst I've ever seen. I think Bryce Young, he threw for 150 yards. I mean, it's just horrible. Horrible football. The Browns game was chaotic. Just absolute chaos. 2 defensive scores from the Steelers. The Reds game was far better. I didn't watch, again, I was flipping back and forth, so I missed some of the Reds game. But I saw the important hits. I saw Joey Votto getting a hit against a lefty. I know there's some people in this room that said under no circumstance should Joey Votto be hitting against a left-handed pitcher. But he did, and he delivered like he always does. I'll take my chances with the Hall of Fame player, but I guess some people won't. Other than that, great night. This is the best time of the year. When we get to fall and I'm flipping between the Reds and 2 Monday night primetime NFL games, we've made it. We've made it. This is the best time of the year. This is why we suffer in August. This is why we suffer in July when there's just nothing. So I am more than great right now. Casey?
Yeah, I mean, games yesterday stunk. Didn't learn anything new other than Panthers have no weapons. The Saints quarterback situation, that stinks. I don't expect any of those teams to do anything in the future. And then the Browns-Steelers, the Browns stink, Steelers stink. I guess the Browns just stunk a little more than the Steelers did. And Deshaun Watson looks like the worst quarterback in the league. So
He does look bad. Some are going to say that contract's going to be one of the worst contracts of all time. I'm going to have to agree with them because he hasn't looked like an NFL quarterback the past 1.5 seasons. Just horrible. I mean, just absolutely horrible. Yeah. If the Anthony Rendon contract for the Angels, I'm thinking of the worst contracts of all time. Deshaun Watson's going to be on there. Deshaun Watson is absolutely going to be on there.
Well, they gave him $230 million, whatever it was, guaranteed, and he hadn't played in 2 years. I don't know what you expect. And also, objectively funny, considering Deshaun Watson's past, that he, had physical contact with the ref, and they asked him after the game, like, "Hey, what happened when you bumped into the ref?" And he's like, "Oh, I didn't touch the ref." Imagine Deshaun Watson being accused of touching somebody and him saying he didn't. Couldn't imagine that one.
Yeah, his downfall couldn't be happening to a better guy. So
right, good human being.
Shout out to Deshaun Watson, just a good guy.
And just really quickly, feel really bad for Nick Chubb. I know you mentioned it earlier in the monologue. You hate to see that from a player that just, out of everyone on the Browns team, that's a guy that didn't really talk a whole lot of smack, just very respectable. And to have an injury like that, that's really, really sad. But, Browns picked up where they left off with Jerome Ford. He looks like he can carry the load from there. So, maybe they don't miss a beat.
That's a terrible, terrible injury, and I truly hope Nick Chubb gets to play football again. That looked like just an absolutely gruesome injury, the kind of injury that you see it once and you're fine after that. You don't need to see it anymore. Like, it's just too gruesome. But, what does it say about the running back position that one of the top 5 running backs leaves the game, and then the backup Jerome Ford comes in and rushes for 110 yards in half a game?
Yeah, here we go again.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say.
I think certainly we all understand that watch football. We understand that there's no doubt that if you have a good offensive line, you're going to be able to run the football. It's just that there's certain backs that allow you to do certain things that are just much more different than other backs, and it matters. It just matters. If you're going to convince me that having a top level running back in the NFL is the same as having, I don't know. Who's your guys' backup? Chris Evans? Be my guest. I guess Bijan Robinson and Chris Evans, one of the same. Same guy. Just if Chris Evans played for the Falcons, he'd have 30 all-purpose yards. But that's here nor there. We have picks. We didn't get to them yesterday because we talked about Joe Burrow at length. I'm sure we could do another full 30 minutes on that whole conversation and that discussion, but we're not going to do that to you today. We went through our picks of draft or die. Nobody died. We'll go around the room and we will remind everybody who won to keep them out of death's row, if you want to call it that. I don't know what we're going to call it, but nonetheless, the Cowboys, the number 1 pick of the draft or die segment, steamrolled the Jets. Reed, you had the
Buffalo Bills, who won by 28 points in the National Football League. So
good
that was
job.
pretty safe.
Who's your second pick?
Good question. Don't know.
All right. I had the Eagles and I had the Falcons, so I went 2-0. Unfortunately, going 2-0 doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter.
But if I did, one of them was an underdog. It was a great pick.
Good job.
I picked 49ers, and then I took a gamble on the Patriots, and that didn't work out.
All right.
But 49ers got me covered.
But everybody is safe.
Yep.
As a reminder, draft or die segment on Thursday, we will decide a snake draft. That snake draft gets chosen by a 100-yard dash, and hopefully that 100-yard dash goes a little bit faster than the last time because it took a little bit of time.
No. I think it's better.
Yeah, that's suspense. I like it. I like how long it takes.
We can start placing bets on it.
Let's go slower.
Yeah,
slower.
Let's go slower.
Casey, let's put a reminder in for the Thursday snake draft race. I want that to be a 15-minute race.
Yeah, I want them to go about a foot a minute.
That's not going to happen. For those that are thinking that's a serious conversation, that's just not going to happen. I know many of you miss the bits, so I got to keep up. Sometimes these bits, they get a little overzealous, and if you think they're serious, I got to make sure you know that they're not. If you had to take a guess and you flipped a coin on how often the chairs over there are serious, the answer is very, very rarely.
Well, if you want to get serious, I'll tell you what, later in the show, too, I want to make sure we talk about this because, when we're a Cincinnati sports talk show, it's important to me that we talk about all the teams. So later in the show, Casey, I would like you to give me a recap of FC Cincinnati. I know I love to talk about this. Right. They're first in the league, but that's later in the show. I just wanted to keep people engaged. People love FC Cincinnati. I just wanted to make sure we're good. That'll be way later, Casey. Later.
Do they call it a league, or do they have some weird European slang for what they call it?
MLS?
Yeah, is it still the league?
I don't know.
It's Major League Soccer, but...
Yeah, but then they play all those other tournaments when they play, like, minor league teams and Euro League teams.
Do they call it, like, something like the Kernuffle?
The Kernuffle.
FCC, top of the Kernuffle.
Hello, Governor.
No, it's just a league.
Pip, pip. All right, we'll talk about them later. But, yeah, so we're going to – are we doing picks?
Yeah,
is that right?
Let's go through our picks.
We're going to go through our picks on football, and by football I mean American football. Not to be confused with soccer, and by soccer I mean football. So here we go. We have our picks. And as they come up, we will discuss not only the picks, but we'll discuss what's going on.
I don't think I got a single pick.
Oh, yeah. Right. We picked that
sucks.
game.
This sucks.
We picked that game.
This sucks.
Interesting. I'm looking around for something. I don't see it. I'm going to find it. And when I find it, I'm going to bring it up. I see it right now. The Red Hawks didn't even need the points, fellas. Didn't even need the points. Good pick, by the way, guys. Nice one.
Thanks.
Go ahead. Let's hear what you have to say about that one.
As everybody knew going into this season, Emory Jones wasn't the guy, and the Bearcats never had a chance. Everybody knew that. They never looked good once during this season. We all knew this was going to be a loss. Miami's a good football program. They've won a lot of football matches over the past, 10 years or so. Really, they shouldn't have even been underdogs. They should have been favored. UC fought their hardest. Scott Satterfield drew up a fake punt in their own 10-yard line. It was one of the greatest play calls that'll never be remembered because they lost this football game. But, some positives to take away. Back to Trace.
You're absolutely right. There's no reason that UC should have been favored by 14. They should have been underdogs. I think the only reason that UC was favored was because they were home and they weren't playing at Miami's home field of Paycor Stadium. So, shout out Red Hawks. Go ahead, Trace.
You got to respect the name here. I'm going to put it right over my face while I talk because that seems to be more of a bit. His name's Chuck Martin. Should probably know his name next time I bring him up. You guys want to have a little fun, little banter about all that? Well, turns out Chuck Martin might have been the guy after all. Deion Sanders, Chuck Martin.
How long has he been head coach? Do we know? Has he
been
there
a
for
little
long
while
time?
now.
Yeah, about
a little
decade,
while.
Probably. Yeah, about a decade.
Yeah, and okay, all right, interesting. Okay.
It's hard to win at Miami, brother.
Yeah, it is.
It's hard to win at Miami.
When you have no good players and no fans that come to the
well,
games. It's
that's
tough.
not true. See, I'm
It's
gonna
tough.
defend him.
I imagine it is
here's the
tough.
difference.
I can't imagine there's a harder place to win in the country when you have 3 fans that show up to your games and you have no good players.
Interesting. No good players that just decided to beat Nip at Night, UC. The other thing that's funny about all that is that, one guy actually seen the talent level of a guy named Pace. You ever heard of a guy named Pace? He actually seen this talent while he was in high school, decided, you know what, we want to give that kid a scholarship, and then after the fact, it just so happens that Luke Fickell decided, oh, yeah, now I want him. The same Luke Fickell, by the way, that left town after he realized the cupboard was bare, and the same Luke Fickell, by the way, that didn't start Sauce Gardner until he had to force him and put him in the game, and he got 2 interceptions. That same Luke Fickell. And the same Luke Fickell, by the way, who quite honestly had one good class that came through UC, and then now he's going to go to Wisconsin, and he's going to flame out, and that's going to be the end of his career.
Chuck Martin, better coach than Luke Fickell. Heard it here first.
Yep, you heard it here first.
Next pick.
What more do you need to say?
Next pick.
All right. Interesting. What was the score of this game?
They didn't cover. You were right. The MAC covered again. What a weekend for the MAC. Notre
Wow.
Dame.
What a weekend for the MAC. And we have another MAC game after this.
And they covered there too. Notre Dame. They still looked okay. They still looked good. They took a little while. Got rolling in the second quarter, and just didn't cover 35 points. It's a lot of points. Shout out to the Chippewas for playing a tightly contested.
Do we have a final score of that?
It was 20. It was 24 points. So I got it pulled up right here. 41-17.
Covered by a whole 10.5 points. No big deal. All right. Next up. Oh, another win. I'll tell you at some point, I might get some credit around here. Trace knows ball. Ohio v. Iowa State. What happened, guys? I mean, the chairs over there are wrong again.
I don't know what you want me to say. It wasn't great.
Yeah, I mean, it was just Ohio's a good team in the MAC. Listen, I think the MAC is a. I mean, they showed their hands. They won a couple big games. They beat 2 Big 12 teams this week. The MAC did head to head. They beat 2 Big 12 teams. The MAC did.
They won 10-7 in a thriller.
Yeah, it was a classic Iowa State football game.
10-7.
Some say they won 13-7, but who's counting?
Yeah, some. 10-7. You watch and you spent 3.5 hours watching that. Next game.
Ohio State versus Western Kentucky. Who won that?
Ohio State.
Wow, Ohio State did.
I got that. Was my
Good
first
job,
one.
Elliot.
That's my first one right. That's my first one right.
Spoiler, I didn't get one right this week. I didn't get a single. I mean, it wasn't even close. Shout out to the Hilltoppers. I don't know what to say. It was mostly a hater of Ohio State pick, and it just didn't work out.
Didn't work out. Casey also missed as well, but he got one right just a minute ago. So Casey's hanging in there. He's fighting. He's battling. What's next?
I did get one right. Yes.
LSU. Who covered that?
LSU.
Oh, LSU did. Good job, everybody. Casey, you got anything to say about that one or no?
I was just trying to be different.
You were, yeah.
I was just trying to make up some ground. That's the only reason why.
All right. Fair enough.
But Trace, this is where your downfall happens.
Oh,
We go to the NFL.
man.
Go to the NFL.
Of course.
Elliot picks one
Relied
up.
on the local team, and they let me down. But anyways, I think we should move along with this one because everybody's already been feeling pretty bad about it. Jags stink.
They
Can't
stink.
cover. That was a hater pick. Can't lie.
Yeah, we know. I don't know what to tell you guys. I think everyone sleeps on the Kansas City Chiefs, and I don't know what else to tell you other than that they win a lot of football games. They have a really good quarterback. A lot of people picked the Jags because they won handily, and some people have said that the Jags will be the first over the number 1 seed in the AFC. I don't see that happening. Good win on the road for Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. I hate that I have to fanboy him, but if
It was
no
an
one's gonna
ugly win,
respect him-
too. It was an ugly. I mean, to be fair, it was an ugly win. They didn't win it easy. They scored 17 points. Travis Kelce had like 40 yards. It wasn't pretty, but they won.
They won by 8.
Yeah, I mean the key here was just Chris Jones coming back. I mean, Jaguars' offensive line is in shambles right now, so they just couldn't put anything together. Trevor Lawrence was just pressured too much, and that's why it's a low-scoring game. I mean, that Chiefs offense is struggling right now.
Have we allowed really quickly? Have we allowed the influence of what happened in the playoffs last year with the Jacksonville Jaguars to influence us and think that we all assume that they're a little bit better than they were? They were down 28 points or whatever it was to the Chargers in a playoff game. And for all intents and purposes, if the Chargers were to win that game going away, and I know that you can always play this what if, but I think it's reasonable to expect that the Chargers had every opportunity in the world last year as long as they didn't step on their own foot or shoot themselves in the foot, whatever term you like to use, that the perception of the Jaguars would be, they're the Jaguars. They were a little bit of a fluke last year. Instead, they won that game. They went and they played against the Chiefs, and they hung with the Chiefs. They played the Chiefs tough, and then now everybody assumes and believes that the Jacksonville Jaguars are a good team. I wonder if you think that that's just bias or influence from the last 2 games.
I don't think it's influence from the last 2 games. I think it's influence from the fact that they won 7 of their last 8 regular season games. You know, they got hot. They started out 3-7 and went on to, I guess it was 6 of 7. And beating like the Baltimore Ravens, the Tennessee Titans, the Dallas Cowboys, like those are big wins. And that's why we think that the Jaguars, because they have a good coach, they have a good quarterback, and if you've watched this show long enough, you know that's the biggest 2. That's what I believe are the biggest 2 recipes for success in the National Football League. Do you have a good coach? Do you have a good quarterback? And they have both those things. I think Trevor Lawrence is a top 5 quarterback. He shows flashes of being a top 5 quarterback. That's why I think people are high on the Jacksonville Jaguars, on top of the fact that they play in a terrible conference.
And I would just like to point out too, again, like they were down 3 of their offensive linemen. Like they were putting together practice squad guys out there. And when you lose your all-pro guard, and you know that matchup between Chris Jones last year was not as prevalent, you know? I mean, he was neutralizing that. This year it's a little bit different. I mean, you can't stop a guy in the middle of the offensive line or middle of the defense, and it's really hard to stop pressure up the middle. So, I mean, I think the Jaguars will be okay long term. I don't know if they're going to be first seed like people were saying before. I mean, I think that's a little ridiculous, but they're definitely going to be a playoff contender.
Well, I think they're going to be in. I mean, I'm just looking at their schedule right now. They could easily rattle off 4 of their next 5 games. They play the Texans, the Falcons, the Colts, and the Saints in the next 5 games. So
You say that, but the Saints just won. The Colts haven't lost, and the Falcons just beat the Packers.
the Colts lost to the Jaguars in Week 1.
My fault.
Falcons are undefeated.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Do we read this super chat?
I think if anyone reads it, it should be you.
Corey says, the Viking helmet guy. Morning, boys. Unrelated to current topic, but hope Elliott's still liking that Ian Jabot edit. They really do look related. If you don't know, on Twitter, he made an edit of me looking very eerily similar to the pride of Great Britain, Ian Jabot. And it's pretty horrifying, if I'm going to be honest. But it looks funny, so that's all there is. Next pick.
Next pick, we have.
Falcons haven't lost, by the way. Colts
Falcons
have lost.
have not.
Sorry.
You just got it backwards.
Dolphins v. Patriots, and I tell you what, the NFL, man. Is Miami for real? I think Miami might be for real. I at first thought Tua just went out to L.A. and had a hell of a game, and that'll all come back down to earth. It'll be a screeching halt. They'll go up to Gillette Stadium, Bill Belichick, New England, clam chowder, and they're going to get, I wouldn't say boat race, but I thought it was just going to be an ugly game, really, really muddy, ugly, disgusting mess, and Tua was going to find himself in a situation where they were going to lose in some fashion in which you wouldn't be proud about. And that's just not what happened, is it? I think at this point, I'm starting to lean on the fact that I think that Miami Dolphins are a really good team, and I forgot they were a really good team because last year Tua got hurt. And that changed the dynamics, didn't it? If Tua stays healthy last year, one would argue that they had just as good of a chance to get as far as anybody. Hell, they almost took the backup quarterback into Buffalo, and they had every chance in the world to beat the Bills. They obviously didn't, but when you lose your quarterback and you're playing backups, there's a little bit of a difference there, isn't there?
Yeah, that's what we were arguing about yesterday in the office. But,
I said a little bit of a difference. I didn't say a monumental difference. There's a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, we'll see about that one. Dude, they have too many weapons. They simply just have too many weapons. They've got a coach that can scheme up things for how many weapons and how much speed they have on the offensive side. And you nailed the head. When Tua Tagovailoa is on the field, the Dolphins are for real. Now, I do want to say, don't sleep on those Patriots. I know they started 0-2, but I think Michael McCorkle-Jones has looked all right through the first 2 weeks. I think they've just played two tough teams in the Eagles and the Dolphins, who you would argue if you made a power rankings of the NFL, both the Dolphins and the Eagles would at least be in the top 4. So I think the Patriots are going to be okay. But, yeah, the Dolphins are for real.
Overreaction week 2, I think the Dolphins are going to go to the Super Bowl. I think the Dolphins are going to go to the Super Bowl. That offense is what the Bengals offense should be. It's electrifying to watch it. Their defense isn't horrible either. So I think the Dolphins are damn good. If, like Reed said, if Tua's not there, it doesn't matter. Scrap the whole thing. But if Tua's on the field, you have Tyreek Hill, you have Jalen Waddle. Raheem Mostert's putting together a very good season to start. So I'm all in. I'm all in on the Miami Dolphins. Right now, they look like the best team in the AFC.
Logan and really quickly, Casey, Logan and Fred are saying that they use all of their weapons, something that you talked about at length with McDaniels.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just look at the box score really quickly. And I watched this game. Raheem Mostert was all over the field. 121 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean,
how many carries did he get?
18.
Okay, so that's what Joe Mixon should be getting.
That's exactly right. I was just about to say that. That's exactly what they need to do. And not only that, like, they occasionally run their backup running backs to switch things up. They, Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill were pretty much bottled up that Sunday. I mean, 40 yards for Tyreek Hill. I know he scored, but 86 yards for Jalen Waddle. I guess you could argue that's not really bottling them up, but they are balanced, right? That's what the Bengals need to be. They need to be able to say, all right, Tua, this isn't going to be your game. We're going to run the ball down their throat. We need to be able to be elite on both sides of, running and throwing. And you look at the other side of the ball on New England's side, I mean, game script-wise, they had to keep throwing with Mac. And that's not what they want to do. You got to try to run the football with this team in order to be successful. They only were able to run Ramondre Stevenson 15 times for 50 yards and a touchdown, but that's the difference. Is just this offense for the Dolphins is so dynamic on both fronts. They can run and they can pass. The Bengals can do that too if they decide to do that, but will they? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
One thing I want to say, and I know I just, gave some props to the New England Patriots, though they started 0-2. They started 0-2, and we're talking about finding people that can, dish the rock around. In that game against the Dolphins, they had 6 different receivers catch at least 5 passes. Michael McCorkle-Jones has had a chance to win the game against the Philadelphia Eagles and the Miami Dolphins in the first 2 weeks. Obviously came up short in both those times, But don't look at the New England Patriots and think that that's an easy win by any stretch of the imagination. The New
definitely
England
not.
Patriots will be vying for a playoff spot despite playing in one of the best divisions in the National Football League this year.
Agreed, Reed. The team is definitely underrated. The defense is really, really good. I mean, that's the first thing, is that they have a top 5 defense when all is healthy. I mean, with Christian Gonzalez is looking like a great pickup for them. They're a rookie. They have a really good pass rush with Matthew Judon. He looks to be a force again this year. And Bill Belichick's going to have that defense right. It's more just, can they get into the right game script? If they get up early on you, I feel like they're going to win ball games. And that's just, they haven't had that yet. They've gotten down early and then relied on Mac Jones to get them into ball games, which, I mean, he's been pretty close, but he's not a Joe Burrow. He's not a Mahomes,
He hasn't really been all that bad.
No, he's been pretty good.
Yeah,
He's been pretty good. I've actually been somewhat impressed with him. You know who I'm more impressed with, though, here is Mike McDaniel. I don't want to say he's going to break like a little bit of a void there that I feel like it's existed certainly in corporate America for a long time. Like those quirky people that just socially sometimes they're awkward. They're just just unique birds. They're unique people. It can turn some people off, right? Like some people, they see him, they're just like, I don't know, that guy he's a goofball. I don't really know. And they're brilliant, or they're geniuses, or whatever. They're really, really good at their job, and that's all that really ends up mattering. Mike McDaniel feels like that kind of person to me. You're either gonna like that type of style or you're gonna hate that type of style. He's certainly polar opposites of a Bill Belichick, right? He just says crazy things, and by crazy things I mean he'll just start talking about something random during a presser, or he'll start dancing on the field pregame. He's just uniquely different than your traditional head coach in the NFL, but he's obviously really well respected within the locker room, and on top of that, he's been proven, or he's shown, that he's capable of getting and maximizing as much talent as you possibly can. Remember, this is the same franchise, the Miami Dolphins, who fired Brian Flores, and there was this huge uproar about all these different things of whether they should have done it or shouldn't have done it. And you know what? I'm not saying I picked a side hardcore on that, but Flores had success in Miami. It wasn't
won
like
9 games.
Yeah, he won games. It wasn't like this guy was a terrible head coach. And for all intents and purposes, I don't know how you guys felt around the room, but I had casted Tua's debt. After the first couple years under Brian Flores, I thought, Tua, it's over. Yes, there was some injury problems, but he looked terrible. It almost sometimes, I don't want to say you fail to forget or whatever term it may be, and maybe sometimes I'll even counteract what I'm about to say, is that it really does matter what's around you in the NFL, doesn't it? Do you have good weapons around you? Do you have a play caller that uses your specific talents to your advantage? Because I would go back to the coordinator that the Ravens just got, and I thought that was Todd Monken did an incredible job with what the Ravens tried to do this past Sunday against the Bengals. I don't know. Coaching matters. We all know coaching matters, but sometimes I feel like maybe, I don't want to say I or we as collective units, we don't give enough credit to the quarterbacks for the foundation and the place they are versus who they are. Baker Mayfield, although early, may be another excellent point to that. He might have found some footing in Tampa Bay. All right, we got another super chat. So far in 2023, Mr. Mo says Deshaun Watson, 55% completion, 309 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Joe Burrow, 57% completion rating, 304 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Not that different. Mr. Mo, here's the thing. In this room, outside of probably myself, you're going to have no one ever going to say that Joe Burrow isn't better than XYZ. And you know what? They rightfully should say that. Joe Burrow has been a good quarterback. Great quarterback. Whatever term you want to use, that's fine. Deshaun Watson has sat for 2 years. He's not looked good for a year and a half. It's been a bad start to the season for Joe Burrow. For obvious reasons, he's got a calf injury. So I don't think – I get what you're saying, though, Mr. Mo, because Elliots said that he's the worst quarterback in the NFL. Joe Burrow's stats don't look that much different, but I think that reasonable heads could assume there's one reason as to why one guy's playing bad. There might be a whole other reason why the other guy's playing bad. All right, next game. The 49ers.
Great pick by me.
And this is where it's tough to swallow
Great
because
pick by
Sean
me.
McVay just decides he's going to kick a field goal late in the game and cover, which is a wild move by him.
Integrity.
Congratulations.
That was
Honor.
wild.
Hopefully you guys feel good about that. You won, though. That's how this game goes.
That's
You
how
won.
it goes. Listen, when there's 3 seconds left and you as a head coach, you need some morale, you need to kick that last field goal. Get some points up. It's, run differential is a real thing in the NFL. We got to get the run differential back to even. So this is a great play by Sean McVay. This is why he's the best. He has a coaching tree. We have one of his branches and Zach Taylor. I'm happy to be a Sean McVay part of his tree. I'm in Sean McVay's tree because of moves like this. Down 10, 2 seconds left. You can go for the end zone or you can take some points. Points. Sean McVay knows what he's doing. This is a Super Bowl winning head coach. Great cover. Great cover. No collusion. He didn't have any money on the game. This isn't Pete Rose, right? He's just playing good, honest football. Great win by me.
What the other call that was a gutsy call, I'd say. I don't know if you saw this at the end of the first half. The 49ers were on the 1 or 2 yard line with 1 play to run.
1 second.
1 second. So it was the final play, and they, instead of kicking the field goal, they decided to go for the touchdown. It worked out, and they go into the halftime tied with the Rams instead of being down 4 points. And obviously it showed out. I keep telling people, the Los Angeles Rams, I think we forget how good of a team, how good of a roster they were, because they played bad last year, mostly because they had a lot of injuries and their starting quarterback was gone. But this team has one of the best coaches in the league. This team won a Super Bowl with this current roster build-up just 2 years ago, a game where the Rams quarterback, Matt Stafford, throws 2 interceptions in the second half, and they still cover against the best roster in the NFL. Just don't sleep on the Rams.
Yeah, let me just do a slight edit to what you said, because they really don't have guys. Like they're not super talented, but they have 2 guys that make the complete difference in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Donald, maybe one of the greatest players of all time, and Matthew Stafford, maybe the greatest player, one of our greatest players in our generation. And those 2 guys alone make this team just function. They literally picked up guys like Puka Nacua in the 6th, 7th round, and he's already broken records as a rookie. I mean, he has like 25 catches and 200 or 300 yards receiving. And then you can't forget about Tutu Atwell. He's stretching the field, making that offense just work. And with guys like Sean McVay at the helm, they just make things work with guys that, are bottom of the barrel. And defensively, they were very smart in picking rookies that could make a difference early. Maybe not guys that had a lot of ceiling, but had a really low floor. And that pass rush, although it's not the same, it gets the job done just enough to where they can be competitive. Now, when they play a team that has a solid offensive line, I want to see what that looks like, because I don't think it's going to be nearly the same. I feel like that's going to be a mismatch in the future. But this Rams team is good. It's not a team that us Bengals fans can sleep on Monday. I'm very, very concerned about Monday night after watching this game. The score is very misleading because Matthew Stafford threw a perfect ball to a guy. He bounces it up, tips the interception. The guy that was burnt, on that route, he catches the pick. And then the next drive is another pick. That was a bad throw by Matthew Stafford, but they're trying to get back into the ballgame at that point. So, I mean, this team is pretty good. I won't be sleeping on them anytime soon.
Aaron Donald through 2 games, only 2 tackles.
Right.
Which is surprising. So I don't know if they're staying away from Aaron Donald, if he's not getting full reps, but only 2 tackles through 2 games.
Mr. Mo says, my point is people don't want Burrow to sit and get healthy, and not healthy. What you get is Deshaun Watson. Understand? All right. That's fair. That's the argument that I was making yesterday, but we're not going to go down that road again because I feel like it leads to nothing of value. We have an issue with Trace in the NFL. He can never pick games right. The Lions. Man, it's something about the Lions. It's like they always find a way to make it interesting. I do think the Lions will make the postseason, but it's one of those things where, the Lions just aren't going to. Are they going to find themselves where they win 12 games ever? I don't know. But they didn't obviously take care of business. They didn't even not only didn't cover, but they didn't win the football game either. I didn't really get a chance to see much of this game. I don't know if you guys did either. You probably did. Casey might have, but
Yeah.
Fellas, do you have anything to add? I mean, you guys.
Gino looked good. Gino looked good. They have 2 elite wide receivers still in Seattle.
Top 10 quarterback.
What?
Top 10 quarterback.
No, he's not a top 10 quarterback, but he's serviceable.
certainly is.
When you have two elite wide receivers, you're going to be able to survive. So I think the Seahawks aren't any slouch. I put on the bit, and I'll bring up the bit when the Bengals play the Seahawks that Gino's a bum. But if I'm going to be honest with you, right now the Bengals can't beat the Seahawks. So the Seahawks are okay. I think the Seahawks are a problem. I think they're going to be probably fighting for the last wild card spot.
Jared Goff through 2 games, even though they lost, he's completed 70% of his passes, 4 touchdowns, almost 600 yards, so averaging almost 300 yards a game. Jared Goff and the Lions offense, pretty good. Pretty good. But shout out to Seahawks for getting this win.
Listen, there's 2 things I want to say. Geno Smith balled out. The score is very misleading. They missed 2 field goals in that game. Should never have been close. Should never been close. The Seahawks just outplayed the Lions straight up. And when Jared Goff gets pressured at all, he collapses. He looks bad. He just is terrible. And that offensive line for the Lions is great. I don't understand why Jahmyr Gibbs doesn't get the ball more. I know the stat line does not suggest that he should get the ball more, but he's the most dynamic player that the Lions have on their roster, and he hardly ever sees the field. I don't know what to make of it. It's just very crazy to me. I don't understand. And then on top of that, I mean, you're going to sit here and say that Geno Smith has 2 elite receivers. Okay, well, they only had 75 yards and 59 yards. He's throwing the ball all over the field. Noah Fant with 56 yards. Colby Parkinson, 41. Will Dissly, 35. Jackson Smith and Jigba, 34. Come on, he's throwing all over the field, making plays, 2 touchdowns. I mean, dude was elite.
The 2 elite receivers had more yards, though.
Yeah, but they weren't the difference in the game. He was balling out, throwing it to everyone.
Yeah, but having 2 elite receivers opens up the other scrub receivers. That's my point.
Well, tell that to the Bengals.
I wish I could tell it to the Bengals. They're dead. By the way, Elliott's doing great at this game, by the way.
You said
Elliott
Deshaun Watson's the worst contract in sports history. I mean, is the Russell Wilson trade the worst trade? I mean, we're talking Noah Fant. Noah Fant was a part of that trade.
Yep.
On top of just getting rid of Russell Wilson and 1 billion picks. That's a bad trade.
Yeah, well, somebody did a trade countdown. I don't know if you remember last year and did say that was the worst trade of all time.
So, to recap the picks.
Who was that?
Recap the picks. What we got, Casey?
Trace, you went 5 for 5 this week. Reed, you went 3 of 7.
Love it.
Elliott, you went 6 of 4. I went 2 of 8. I had a really bad week, especially in college. Tom went 4 of 6.
You went 2 of 8.
I love how
you went 2 of 8.
Time out.
No. How about I take over? No, you stay there. Casey on Saturday, he comes over to me. He's got all these picks for me. I'm gonna go pick. I'm losing my life. I'm losing my livelihood on these picks. Responsibly, of course. If you have a problem, you call 1-800-GAMBLER. I don't, but I'm saying I lost a lot of money on Saturday listening to the advice of one Casey McAllister. That's going to stop right now. He can't pick a game right to save his goddamn life.
I mean, I'm still second, so let's calm down a little bit. But
my favorite thing about Casey is that my man has he's got these weird idioms that you do. He says the score first when it's like he'll say the score is 3-7. It's like the score is 7-3. And then now I'm just realizing that my man says 2 of 8 when he means 2 and 8, not of and. 2 of 8 is not the same as 2 and 8.
Sorry.
Yeah, 2
so
of 8.
That one's
2 of 8
not
is
good.
just much different.
Yeah, it is.
So,
yes, it is.
Anyways, carry on.
Yeah, that one's not good. That was really bad. Trace, you're 10-10 on the season. You still have to pick your extra games. We haven't been doing that for you. Reed, you're 9-18. Elliott is 16-11. The only positive picker so far in our little game here. 11-16 for me and 10-17 for Tom.
So I'm 16-11.
Yeah.
How am I not winning money? I mean, this is crazy. This is crazy stuff. I'm the greatest gambler that's ever walked the planet. I'm winning everybody in this chat money. I know they're all taking my picks. Shout out Drew Garrison. I know he's taking bets. Let's go, guys. Pickups. Ride with
Hey,
me.
you're talking to yourself, man. You're throwing winners out and you're losing money left and right. That's a thumb problem.
Yeah,
That's a thumb
that is
problem.
a thumb
Look
problem.
in the mirror.
I'm a
The other
parlay guy.
the other problem I have is that I could have gone and got a nice steak from a good steakhouse at that Z Brazilianaire the other day, and it just didn't work out, did it? But we'll have another one. And by gosh, you know what's beautiful about Z Brazilianaires, with all sincerity, is if you hit a 50% clip, just 1 out of every 2, you're making money.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
You're making money. You might be able to break even if you go 1 for 3. It would be close. You might lose a
2
little.
plus 230. I don't know how.
Yeah, you would lose a little money if you lost three of those, but it wouldn't be nothing crazy. But, hey, Z Brazilianaires, I'm not giving up on it already. Good things come to those who wait. Well, here's where we're at. We got about 15 minutes before we do the locals. Let's get into something we brought off at the top of the show, which is the second half of this show is going to be Reds-based. There are some good topics of conversation to be had about it. I do think that there's going to be some people that probably hate what I say. There's going to be some people that maybe understand what I'm saying, and maybe some people are going to be jumping for joy for what I say. I have no idea what the reaction will be, but I do have a strong opinion on it, so we'll get to that. But before we do, the Cincinnati, well, we won't do free ads, of course, but we did have some renderings of a new arena, maybe possibly coming to Cincinnati. What does it mean if Cincinnati gets a new arena? Is there any chance in the world we get an NBA team? Is that a thing? Is that a possibility? There are some really wealthy people. Shakely is the name of one of them that want an NBA team in this city. The first thing that has to happen to get an NBA team, at least, is to have an arena. For those that didn't see, there are renderings out and about in the World Wide Web that we'll show you right now of what this arena could look like. Renderings always look so nice, don't they? Seems like the renderings almost look more nice than the actual facility itself. But as we go through, what could that possibly do for Cincinnati? And where could it possibly be? Well, they've come up with some opportunities to tell you where it could possibly be. And there you go. Fellas, as we look through this map, Casey, keep that on there for just a minute so the viewers can see. There's a plethora of options. I don't know if one's better than the other. And I know right now this is probably very, very, very early in the process. Heritage Bank Center, Heritage Bank Arena, whatever the hell they want to call it. That is the best spot. I don't know logistically from a building perspective, a contractor perspective, it's got to be the worst. Or if it's not the worst, it's got to be damn near close to the worst because you got to not only tear down Heritage Bank, you got to then figure out where those teams and concerts and all the things that you had planned for that said facility go. And on top of that, you got to tear it down and then rebuild. And I'm sure there's something that comes along the lines of what, the Reds have to probably get involved, I would assume, at that standpoint with what that could possibly do to their business. And it turns into a little bit of, I would assume, red tape nightmare. Then you have an interesting location that we discussed here for just a second, which is the casino location. I think that's my favorite one, fellas. I got to be honest. Do you have a favorite?
The one I want would be the Heritage Bank Center, but like you said, logistically, I don't think it's even possible to tear that down and build something there. I don't know how it would work. So if I can't have that, then it would be the casino. I think the casino's in a very, very good spot. Would you? But in that scenario, you'd tear down the casino, right?
No, it would be like, according to this, it would be a little down the street. The problem with the casino is I don't know if it would take out the parking lot there at the casino because it's kind of landlocked in by the interstates. The one site that I don't want it to go on is Longworth Hall for a couple of reasons. Most notably, I think that's one. I'm not too worried about that being the center of tailgating for Bengals games, but I just don't want something on that side of I-75. Like that would be too far away from the city. I think you guys may be overplaying the Heritage Bank site. I mean, we're in the year of our Lord, 2023, and any of these spots that you put on this city, it's gonna, like the Millennium Hotel site. I don't know if they've demolished. Someone tell me if they've demolished the Millennium Hotel, but then you're taking out a 30-story skyscraper as opposed to taking down, I don't know if you guys remember when Great American Ballpark was built, but it was built in the outfield of Riverfront Stadium. Like, they took out the outfield of Riverfront Stadium to build a new ball field. Like, if we could do that 20 years ago, why can't we do something now? Like, I guess I'm underplaying the Heritage Bank site. They wouldn't suggest it unless it was a good spot, and it is obviously the best spot. That's where I want it. That's where I want it, bar none, and I think we can do it. I think it might limit the size of the arena then, because Heritage Bank isn't the biggest arena.
Yeah, but sometimes I think, and again, this is where we certainly aren't contractors, I think that you can get fooled into thinking there's not enough space in certain places when there's plenty of space. The only thing about Heritage Bank versus the Great American Ballpark Riverfront suggestion you just made is that there's really there's nowhere else to help build it while the other thing's intact, right? So yes, they took out the outfield portion of Riverfront, but they still played games in there while they were building Great American Ballpark. This would be impossible to build while you're still using the Heritage Bank Center in any form of fashion. So, again, we're not the resource that you should come to when it comes to trying to figure out all the logistics that come with this. We're just trying to bring it to the forefront of your attention, because if you like sports, you like Cincinnati, you probably watch this show. If you like those two things and you watch this show, I at least want to let you know about the fact that they're considering it. It's a consideration. NBA team. We've talked about this before. Trust me, on Off the Bench, this is the source of all of your NBA news. Is the NBA in Cincinnati, is it even a thought? Is it even something that the NBA would consider, considering they have a team in Indianapolis? Or is it just something we want to get excited about around here and act like it's a possibility? Or do you think it genuinely could possibly ever happen?
I don't think the NBA is ever brought up here in Cincinnati, and it's purely because we don't have an NBA team. It's the same way that in Salt Lake City, they probably don't talk about Major League Baseball all too often, or Portland, they probably don't talk about Major League Baseball all too often. But I fully believe, at least in my fandom, that I would get behind an NBA team and start considering it very seriously. But we just never had a team to worry about. And maybe you can say that we've already got our basketball itch because we have UC and Xavier and UK and all the local college basketball teams, that maybe there's just not enough fans to support an NBA team. But as I'm saying, from Reed Mouse would absolutely support an NBA team. I'd get fully behind them if we did get one team here.
Fair enough. Chi-Town with the super chat. Good reminder. It says reminder to support veteran-owned small businesses like mine. Thank you, Chi-Town.
Thank you for your
Thank
service.
you for your service. I don't know.
Would you get behind an NBA team?
Of course I would. Yes.
Do you think the city can support it?
I think, yeah. I think that this city could easily support an NBA team. Yes, I do. Because I think NBA very much is a star-driven league. And even if the team wasn't very good, right? LeBron, and I know LeBron's on the back end of his career, and if he's on a hole, I think he's on hole 18. But you're going to have the Steph Currys, the Kevin Durant's, the Kawhi Leonards of the world coming through your city. People are going to want to watch that. People are going to want to see those players play. So even if you don't have a superstar or your team isn't what I would call, great, I think it could support it. And this is no disrespect to another city. I'm not trying to punch down by any stretch of the imagination what I'm getting ready to say right now. It's going to sound like that, but I'm really not trying to do that. If Detroit can support an NBA team while they also have a Major League Baseball team and they also have a NFL team.
NHL team as well.
And an NHL team, I think the city of Cincinnati can do that.
Yeah, I think the Cincinnati sports area, I think we've passed – I don't want to say expectations, but I think Cincinnati, you grow up watching SportsCenter, you don't see the Bengals, you don't see the Reds. Maybe that's because they really haven't been relevant for a long time. But now the relevancy is all in Cincinnati. I think the NBA fans, in Cincinnati would love it. I would love it. I would go to NBA games. It would probably, if I'm going to be honest, it would probably draw more attendance than the Reds, which is crazy, but that's the world we live in. I think NBA games are infinitely more fun to go to as well. And not to mention that it opens up a door for everything too. It opens up having Final Four games in Cincinnati. It opens up giant concerts. It opens up everything. So it's not just an NBA team. It's you get to have literally whatever you want here. And I think that's what this city is missing. Having the ability to have all those giant events here is what this city is missing.
To push back on the Detroit comment, Detroit's twice the size of Cincinnati, so they have more people.
Yeah, but that city's kind of gross.
Helps, and it was the wealthiest city in the world in like the 1960s.
Well, it's not the 1960s anymore, is it, Reed? Drew Garrison says the Cincinnati Royals take on the Indiana Pacers live Friday at Chatterbox Arena in Cincinnati. It just rolls off the tongue. Drew, that would be nice. That would mean Chatterbox is doing good things if that ever becomes a thing. Although, if I could say something, I would love to make it a Coliseum. I feel like that would be it's just something about a Coliseum that sounds a little more classy than an arena. Chatterbox Coliseum.
I like the garden.
He likes the gardens, but I feel like the gardens, if we're being honest, it just feels like you're just kind of I don't know.
The rendering has grass on top of the stadium.
Yeah, did you see those trees? Were those white oaks?
It's the hanging gardens of Babylon. I mean, it's the gardens.
There was a Cincinnati Gardens. It just didn't make it, did it?
It didn't do well.
Is Cincinnati Gardens still around? Am I being?
Oh God, no. That thing got demolished.
That got demolished.
Ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Cincinnati Gardens. I don't know. I do think that the city could support an NBA team. However, I'm starting to wonder if they can support an MLB team. We'll get to that in just a little bit.
I wasn't gonna say it.
We got a mailbag. Do you want to do mailbag?
I think that's what time it is. We'll do a mailbag. Why not? Without further ado, it's the mailbag question of the day.
We just got a letter. We just got a letter. We just got a letter. I wonder who it's from.
It's time for the Chatterbox mailbag. And again, each question comes from a second grader from around the tri-state area. Today, we have little Simon and Mrs. Garfunkel's class. Second grade class, Mrs. Garfunkel, and this is little Simon. He has a question regarding the Bengals. My daddy said he was going to set me up with a Roth IRA account to start investing in my future, but instead lost his ass on Bengals minus 3.5.
Clean it up.
What a mouth.
Hold on, this is serious.
Start over.
Hold on, little Simon's making me laugh. I'm gonna reread the question. I didn't do him justice there. My daddy said he was gonna set me up with a Roth IRA account to start investing in my future, but instead lost his ass on Bengals minus 3.5. We now have to sell my basketball sneakers. Little Simon asks, the Bengals are allowing 4.9 yards a carry, and our quarterback is injured. How are we supposed to win football games under these conditions? P.S. My daddy loves Bengals minus 2.5 on Monday. So, little Simon.
Well, what I would tell little Simon, first and foremost, you have this thing called a 1-800 gambler. If you have a gambling problem, please call it. That would be the first sign of opportunity to be able to pass that along to his father. The second thing would be as simple as this. We talked about this yesterday. The Bengals, I think, if you're someone, which I think is almost every single Bengals fan, believed and should have believed that this Bengals team had every right to be Super Bowl favorites. They were a Super Bowl roster. You heard it around here. You heard it everywhere. This roster is as good as they've ever had. There's no way you can convince me that just because Joe Burrow goes down, that you can't find a way to scratch out a few wins against your next 4 opponents if you have a Super Bowl roster. Usually, a Super Bowl roster has a good defense. That is the question of the day. Does this Cincinnati Bengals team have a defense that is Super Bowl quality? Because like it or not, I said this yesterday, I'll say it again. I think the Cincinnati Bengals have had almost all of their success because of their defense. It's been masked by big stars. Those big stars are Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, do we include Irv Smith on this? No. But I don't know if this defense is what they used to be or not. Let Lou cook. We used to say that all the time here last year. I guess that's the question I have around the room. This defense has been slept on far too often in this city. I think it gets brought up. Yes, it gets brought up. I'm not suggesting for a second that the fans don't say you have a good defense. I'm not suggesting that the reason that Lou even has a name, and by Lou, I mean Lou Armadillo, of course, he has a name in this city for a reason because it does get brought up. I just wonder if it's never been talked about in this city like it's been the reason the Bengals win. It's talked about like it's a good compliment to Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and this high-flying offense, when in reality, you peel back the onion a little bit, I start to question it was the defense all along that carried the weight. And the offense, yes, they have playmakers, but they were just a part of the ride. You push back, you don't agree with that,
Listen,
you don't like that.
Listen, the idea that the defense is the reason that we've been successful over the past 2 years is half true, because it's half of the team. And it's crazy that you're sitting here going that the defense is the only reason that the Bengals have been successful over the past 2 years, and we don't give them enough credit. And then when the Bengals do last year start talking about, man, our defense is really good. Our defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo, is fantastic. You sit here and go, they're like, I don't want to hear about Lou Anarumo anymore. He did this last year all season long when we start giving the defense credit.
Second half touchdowns is a joke. Go ahead.
But, I mean, it was true. But to sit here and for us to give Lou Anarumo credit and then you to discount it, and then 1 year later go, I don't think you guys are giving the defense credit, is absolutely asinine. And then the second part that I have to say is to say that the defense is the only reason the Bengals have been successful when Joe Burrow has passed for 9,000 yards the past 2 years. For Joe Burrow to break franchise passing records in back-to-back seasons is absolutely asinine. The team is loaded on both sides. And the question is, I think that we haven't seen the defense play up to snuff, but is that because there's too many holes in the defense right now, or is that just because the defense has played two of the best rushing attacks in the league for weeks 1 and 2? That answer, I don't know. But to say that we don't give the defense enough credit is crazy, and to say that the defense is the only reason that the Bengals have been successful for the past 2 years is also crazy.
Yeah, I would just like to add. Oh, I forgot. Oopsie.
Oh no! Oh no!
Oh no!
Oopsie.
No!
My bad. Hold on. Let's get rid of that. And let's. Oh. There we go.
Oh.
There we go. Okay, I'm here. Yeah, I would just like to add on to that just by saying I think part of the issue is we've been so accustomed to having a top, 10 front seven. They've just not played like it. And to be fair, they've played the two best rushing attacks in football for the most part. Browns and Ravens are pretty darn good.
Right.
And on top of that, they're getting a lot of snaps. The offense has just not been good enough, and the defense has been out there at a extreme rate. And our guys like Sam Hubbard, B.J. Hill, D.J. Reader, Trey Hendrickson, they are currently all on pace to break their single season snaps per season. By a lot. Combined, it's 603 snaps in total, which is just outrageous. They need more production from guys that are like Miles Murphy, Zach Carter, guys that are the rotational pieces when Osai gets back. When they get those guys going, I think maybe they'll have a better time. But as of right now, they're just not where they need to be. They need to get into regular season form, and it's just not there yet.
The defense will play better. They will play better this year. But going back to Trey saying that we haven't given the defense enough credit, we give them plenty of credit. Last year, in 2022, the Bengals were 16th, right smack dab in the middle, in yards allowed per game. That was their defense. Their offense, on the other hand, was top 7 in the league. So, once again, for anyone that says that The defense is the reason that the Bengals have had success, is one thing and one thing only. They are just trying to discredit Joe Burrow in this offense. That's all it is. They're tired of hearing how great Joe Burrow is, but it's the reason we talk about how great Joe Burrow is because he is great. Didn't play great the first week. Didn't play great for the first 2 quarters on Sunday, but he's still one of the best quarterbacks in the league. That's the reason that we talk about him all the time, not because we love him, which we do. It's because it's true. It is true. Now, we've had a lot of defensive success in the postseason. Don't let me forget that because we've gotten plenty of timely turnovers. But anybody that tells you that the defense has played better than the offense over the past 2 years is wrong, and they're only saying that because they want to discredit Joe Burrow.
That's all cute and well, but the only time that really everybody really cares about what the outcomes are at the end of it, and the thing that everybody remembers is the playoffs. And I'm looking at the playoffs right now, and let's see here. Opponents scored 17 points, 10 points, 23 points, 19 points, 16 points, 24 points, 23 points. They just don't give up a lot of points. On the other side of the ball, this offense that everybody that rants and raves about has not scored more than, 27 points in a playoff game? Now, again, 27 points is okay, but I wouldn't say that's what's carrying the load. We promised you Reds talk at 11 o'clock. We're a little beyond that. Why? Because it's locals at 11. And if you know anything about locals at 11, it means 2 things. One, we get to highlight our great sponsors, like United Dairy Farmers, of course. That's who this show is brought to you by. And you get to hear Casey's eloquent voice as he does those ad reads. But first and foremost, you get the weather, because where else are you going to turn to find the weather? We'll send it to you, Elliot.
It's time for the weather. How's everybody doing? Hey. Listen, I haven't had to change this graphic in a week and a half. Is it going to be low of 52, high of 75? Probably, something around there. Casey, flash the graphic. Boom. Look at this. Watch this. Boom. All right, so it's a beautiful day in Cincinnati. I woke up with a lot of fog today, Chip. I really couldn't see. We in the meteorologist community, we call that a cloud has fallen. So really what happens there is a cloud falls from the sky and it lands around your area. I drove through a big cloud. It was really on my way to work today. It was about a 40-minute cloud. So I don't know how that fluctuates there. So much like the national media's prediction for the Reds this season, low of 50, high 77, something like that. Go outside at lunch today. Have yourself a day. It's nice outside. If you didn't bring a jacket this morning, I bet you're really chilly. Chirp. That's me being cold, right? So you're going to go through your day. You're going to have a nice day. It's pleasant. It's perfectly pleasant. We're going to transition into the seasons from cold to warm, or from warm to cold here soon. So you're going to have to deal with that. Other than that, I've had a cough for 4 months. Again, there's no really way to characterize that. There's no graph for it, other than the fact that in Canada they've had a bunch of wildfires, right? I know you're saying, Elliot, this is Cincinnati, this is Hamilton, Ohio. We don't care about that. Listen, it's important to me and it's important to you. The wildfires have created a toxic mutant allergy that has gone into my system, and I can't get rid of it for 4 months. I have been to the doctor twice. I've been to the doctor 2 times. He's given me allergy medicine. He's given me inhalers. Nothing's working. Not a thing is working. I told him I'm a professional meteorologist. I've seen this weather outside. It's sunny. It's not too cold. It's perfect weather. I should be having fun. I'm not having any fun. But you should have some fun. So go outside today. Go outside today if you haven't been struck by the mutant allergy that came from Canada. We'll call it Tim Horton disease. Go outside. Have yourself a day. That's the weather. That's all I've got. It could rain tonight. It could. But the weather's going to change throughout the entire day. It doesn't matter. Other than that, back to you, Chip.
All right, you heard it here first. 75 and sunny. Low of 52. I don't know if that's laziness on our graphics department or if that's just been what the actual weather has for the last whatever it's been.
Well, actually,
week and a half.
Back on me real quick. Actually, that's a good point that he brought up there.
Well,
no, that's okay. We do it. Yeah, we'll use a different background here. So that's the best part about weather. It's that what I say doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter because whatever you feel outside, that's the weather. So it's gonna be low of 50, high of 70 until I say otherwise. That's the greatest part because if you know you have a phone, you can just check it. You don't have to wait for me. You just check it on your phone. Why are you watching the news? You just check it on your phone. Is it gonna be cold? Is it gonna be warm? I don't know.
Is the weather going to go to 78 instead of 75? Who gives? I don't care. Do you care, Chip? No, Chip doesn't care. Come on. 75, 52, 48, 78. Who cares? Weather doesn't matter. Go outside.
All right. Well, what are you supposed to say to that? 78, 75, who cares? Sounds like gold jacket, green jacket. You know the rest. It's a kid show. All right. Well, we have some people that are local supporters of our show, local businesses that make this whole thing possible. It allows Elliot to buy an $80 suit and decide that he's not going to return it. He's just going to wear it every day on the show until he gets his $80 worth. Right. And I got news for him. He better work here a long time to get his monies out of that. But without further ado, because I'm going to keep saying that word until I get it right, Casey McAllister with your local ads.
Thanks, Chip. The Bengals Report is brought to you by Encore Technologies. Encore Technologies provides IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing modules to improve efficiency and
productivity.
Productivity! Visit Encore.tech. The path to innovation begins here. Pawnee Water. Have you heard of this? It's a new premium alkaline water. Made right here in Hamilton, Ohio. Uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing that most water brands use. The result is a great tasting water. The best tasting water in the world. You can visit Pawnee Water at PAHHNIwater.com. That's PAHHNIwater.com to see where you can buy this great tasting water. Get your coffee from UDF. Get your technology solutions from Encore. Buy Pawnee Water to drink that amazing water. And bet on Betfred, the best sports book in the world.
Yeah, it is really good water. It's a natural limestone filtration for me, guys. Trace?
This show is so stupid. It's the dumbest show out, man. I mean, I don't know if it's funny or bad or both. I think it is both, but you know what? We're hoping Tom's back soon too, Mouse Cop. Trust me, I've been praying every single night for Tom's health. Your boy's running on fumes. I'll tell you why I'm running on fumes. Because I get home last night, and I decided I wasn't going to go to the ball game because, you know what, we have a show to do, and I want to make sure that I'm on that show as much as humanly possible because when I'm not on that show, there's a little more heavy lifting that Nick Kirby has to do. And when I tell you that I was disappointed last night, that would be a little bit of an understatement. Am I wanting to be a gatekeeper here? Am I wanting to say that you're a bad fan if you don't go to games? Of course not. I'm not suggesting that for half a second. I'm just suggesting that if there's... How many people even live in the suburbs within a 20-minute, 25-minute, 30-minute drive of Cincinnati? I don't know the answer right off the top of my head, but I'd venture to say we're in the millions. We're in the millions. Last night, the attendance was reported at 15,000. If there was 5,000, I'd be surprised. Casey, I don't know if you have a picture of last night's attendance, but please put that up there.
Here we go. Here it comes.
This doesn't even show the upper deck, which is completely empty. And on top of that, this is in the third inning. The third inning. Now, I know that there's excuses everywhere. And by God, some of these excuses are valid. I am not suggesting for a second that I'm not this person on my high horse here, naive to everything under the sun when it comes to what the possibilities are as to why you can't get to the ballpark. I have 3 kids. They're all in school. Obviously, we have a work here More times than not, we have things that we have to go do that are outside of the hours of 9 to 5. And perhaps there's times where yesterday, Elliot wanted to go to the game. He just couldn't because we had work. Casey was working. Reed was working. I stayed home because I wanted to do the show, like I said, at night. So everybody in this room, none of us were there. If you want to use that as the reason as to why I can't bring up why I'm a little bit sad because there's only, 3,000 fans there, when there's 5 home games left now, when your favorite franchise and team, maybe it's not even your favorite franchise anymore because of what the ownership group said. I get that answer too. I understand all of it. I've seen and I want to call them what they are. They're excuses. I'm going to call it, I've seen every excuse there is. And you know what? Every single excuse that I've seen has a little bit of truth and validity to it. But we're talking about 5,000 people here, man. You can't go around bragging about how big of a baseball city you live in and how great the Reds fan base is when that's what we just produced, when the team was supposed to win 64 games and they're literally on the doorsteps of a playoff race. And oh, by the way, you want to add in the fact that Joey Votto has 5 games left now in your entire life at Great American Ballpark. If you want to convince yourself and put blinders on and tell yourself that he's going to come back next year, be my guest. Be my guest. But you'd be wrong. This isn't about Joey Votto. This isn't about whether they should keep him. This isn't about any of that. What this is about is the truth. And the truth is Joey Votto will not be back here next year. Period. There is no way in the world he comes back. Now, that might be sobering. That might be, Trace, he's just, you know what, I can't stand when Trace gets on this stage. He acts like he's right about it. How many times, I would ask you, have I been wrong when I've sat here and I've been this passionate about something specific? How many times has it been wrong? I dare you to go find it. I'm telling you, this is it for Joey Votto. He barely is able to stay healthy this year. He's had to take multiple IL stints. He's not hitting all that well. But you know what? He can carry this team for a short amount of time. He is still a Hall of Fame player. He still is the best hitter in Reds history. And I'll continue to say that. But to sit here and act like for 1/2 second that he will be here next year is lying to yourself. And it's hard for me to stomach when I look out at the broadcast and it legitimately looks like the Reds are 30 games back. Meanwhile, in St. Louis, and you can give me all the excuses you want. I don't care. I don't want to hear them. The St. Louis Cardinals are like 30 games out of first place. Adam Wainwright, just the other night, goes out and pitches his final time at Busch Stadium. Was it a sellout crowd? No. But I'd be venture to guess that there was at least 2, maybe you could convince me 3 times the amount of people at Busch Stadium. Now I hear you. You're probably saying, well, Trace, look at the history of the Cardinals. Look how long that they've had a good winning team, and look at the Reds. Okay, and how's it ever going to fix itself? How's that ever going to be the answer? How is the answer to get a better franchise, to get an ownership group to buy in, to want to spend money? How is the answer ever to not spend money? And by not spend money, I mean not go to the ballpark. Now, I'm not saying if you can't afford to go to the ballpark, that's a completely different topic, and I completely understand that. For someone that grew up poor, and I did, and now you might not believe me, but I did. I understand why and how some just feasibly can't go to the game. I also understand when you live 4 hours away, 2 hours away, hell, even an hour and a half away, on a Monday night, you can't go to the games. Understood. Completely understand. But to sit here and brag is the part I have a problem with. You can't do it. You cannot brag that you're a baseball town, and that is what is produced when you have 5 games left with the greatest player in your generation, more than likely, left. And on top of that, the team, oh, by the way, is legitimately in a playoff spot, fighting with 4 other teams for 2 spots, and they have every right to believe they could go to the postseason, and that's what's produced. If you want to make excuses for the fan base, go ahead. I'm a part of it. I'll consider myself a part of the problem. I didn't go. But as I said before, when I do a show every night, I feel obligated to not be able to go. I have to make decisions that I can't go to the game when I want to go to the game because, quite honestly, it's my job to not go to the game so I can be ready right when the game's over to do a show at night that a lot of people care about. Now, I'm not suggesting that for a second that I'm more important than somebody else, because I'm not. I'm truly not. But I'm also not going to turn around and have somebody look at me and say, well, what have you done? Have you gone to the games? I don't know. The company that we work here with, we rented out the river deck. We, quite honestly, overpaid for that. But you know what? I love it because I love the Reds, and I also love the community that we've built. And I'd love to go to the games. But to sit here and make excuses for us as a fan base, and I'm including me in this, all of us, and act like that's acceptable seems wild to me. That seems wild. And to finish my point before you go, Elliot, is the only real reason I'm pissed, truly, because the only reason I'm really pissed about it is because the same people right around January and February will turn around and want to look you square in the face and say this team should have spent more money in the offseason, and on top of that, this is a baseball town. This is one of the best baseball towns in the country. Okay, prove it. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, so there's a couple points there. There's a lot of people in the chat misconstruing what you're saying, and I get their point. If you're not at the game, don't preach about it. Trace hosts arguably the most popular Reds podcast. I would say there's nobody a bigger ambassador of the Cincinnati Reds than Trace and Nick Kirby. So that's got to stop there. But if you look at the attendance, right, and I'm not going to say anything because I didn't go to the game last night, right? I was busy. I couldn't go to the game. I will say I go to about 20 games a year. I go to about 20 Reds games a year. I mean, that's a significant financial commitment I give out to Bob and Phil Castellini, who I don't particularly like. I don't like the Castellinis. I don't. I personally do not like them. It pains me to give them my money. But I'm going to go to 20 games a year. I don't know how much money that is with parking, food, and everything. It's probably about $1,000 I give the Cincinnati Reds a year. So I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't go to games, but we have to have more people. There has to be more people because all those people that don't go to the games, they're on Twitter bitching and yelling about everything. So if you're not going to go to the games, if you're not going to make a commitment, and I know it's not for everybody. Some people live 45 minutes away. It's not a viable option for a lot of people when these games start at 6:40. That's a whole other issue. But the Reds right now, I mean, this is a miracle season, and we had if we want to say there was 15,000 there last night, you're joking. It's not a serious comment. There wasn't 15,000 people in the stadium. There was about probably 8,000 people there. There's no other city in a playoff race right now that's doing that. There's not. There's just not. There's 10 games left of this season. We were predicted to be horrible. We have outperformed any expectation possible. Rookies have carried us. This has been one of the best, coolest, most fun seasons of all time. And on a Monday night, when every game's a must-win with 10 to go, we have 8,000 people there. And again, I can't say anything about yesterday. I wasn't there. I know Fred was in the chat saying it. I know other people in the chat are saying it. If you're not there, you can't speak up. But we in this room go to a lot of Reds games combined, I'd say.
I'll tell you this right now.
Go ahead.
I'll tell you this right now. I see some of the comments, and that's full and fed. And you know what? I knew that was going to come. Oh, you didn't go to the game. You can't talk. Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to be dead honest with you. I'll look you square in your face. I spent $5,000 out of our own pocket at Chatterbox Sports. And when Chatterbox Sports has their own bank pool at the end of the year, I can take from it. $5,000 is the extra money that we had to spend to get the river deck. That's how much money we lost, okay, at Great American Ballpark. That's also not counting the t-shirts we gave away for damn near free. On top of that, right, I do about an hour and a half show every single night that many people enjoy. And does that mean that I have to be there every single night? No. But when Nick Kirby, when he decides he's going to do a 2-hour show every night and take time away from his family, yes, I do feel obligated when I tell a guy before the season starts, let's do every single game, that I should be there for as many games as humanly possible. And that requires me not to go down to the games. If you don't think that I'm not invested in the team, that, oh, Trace, well, put your money where your mouth is, it's the most ridiculous take I've ever seen in my life. And on top of that, I'll take you one step farther. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. Not that I need to prove it to the Hoosier daddies of the world or whoever else, because that's irrelevant. I could care less about that. But what I do care about is this. I do care when I look at a game, and it's a meaningful game, and it's an embarrassment to the city, if we're being honest, that there's 3,000 people there. It was a nationally televised game last night. There's literally 3,000 people in the stands. There will be more people that go to a high school Friday night football game over the course of one of these next few Friday nights than there was at Great American Ballpark in a pennant race with Joey Votto, who you and I and we all agree is probably the greatest Reds player that we might see in our lifetime, his last 5 games. And you want to convince me that I shouldn't be upset as a fan? I don't understand the logic there. If you want to convince yourself that, oh, Trace is a silver spoon kid and all these other things, go ahead, be my guest. Keep making excuses for yourself. Keep making excuses as to why I feel the way I feel. I'm upset, not at you specifically, not at anyone specifically, but collectively, that has to be better. And if you don't think so, then it's never going to be better as a Cincinnati Reds fan, because you're never going to be able to go get free agents. You're never going to be able to spend money. And the things that Phil and Bob said are true. Like it or not, that is true. I know you might hate me for saying that, but you cannot put 3,000 people in the seats in a pennant race and convince somebody, Elliot, that has a lot of money that they should spend a ton of money to try to get their ball club in a pennant race when there's no reward on the back end outside of just winning. And you know what? I would love our ownership group just to want to win. That would be awesome. But you know what? They're not. So I'm telling you, it was just disheartening when I look at a team across the way in St. Louis who I know has an unbelievable fan base. And all I'm saying is this. Don't tell me we're a baseball town like St. Louis is a baseball town anytime soon, because I don't believe it. And that might be hard to hear. You can hate me for saying it. And you know what? You're no better of a Reds fan than I am. I will be going to the rest of the games. I will go down to every single game. If that's what makes you think that I'm doing, I will go to every single one. And I know some people can't financially afford to do it, because I used to be that person. But I was also in high school. In high school, I did one thing. I didn't have a lot of money, and my collective friend group didn't have a ton of money. But we also loved the Cincinnati Reds, so we fever pitch styled it. We got 12 of us as a friend group. We all bought season tickets. We drafted right down the line. We got to pick the season tickets that we went to, and we fever pitch styled it. So I will put my money where my mouth is. In fact, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy season tickets for the Reds. And I'm going to buy season tickets as a group here at Chatterbox. And I'm going to put on our website your ability, and I'm not saying you specifically, but someone, if they want to be in the Chatterbox section of the season tickets that we buy, you can purchase, call it $50, and that'll get you, we won't make a single dollar from this. This is strictly just giving people an opportunity to be a part of a group, because this team will make the postseason soon, Elliot. Yep. This team will make the postseason, and if they make a World Series, there's a lot of people that care about the Reds that won't be able to afford to go, because season ticket holders get privilege over everybody else, and the secondary market for those said tickets is going to be extremely expensive. But if we create a group and you get the ability to buy the tickets at face value, then ultimately, if you're within the group, you have a chance to get those at a much higher likelihood otherwise. So I'm going to do that too. Those are the two things I'm going to do. Now, I know it sounds like I'm preaching that I'm better than someone else. I'm not suggesting that for a single second. And if that's the way you want to take it, that's your prerogative, not mine. But what I am saying is, if you're a Cincinnati Reds fan and you think that last night was okay, then I just can't agree with it. Am I being crazy? I'm willing to let someone talk me off the ledge and say, Trace, you're being ridiculous. I'm just mad and upset that we as a fan base beg and plead year after year in the offseason. I just want a team that can play meaningful baseball in September. I want a team that might make the postseason. I want to get to October. I want to be the Cardinals. I want to be whoever else it is that you may think has a good franchise. And that is what you put out when you're right there at the doorstep of a playoff race with 5 games left of your favorite player, more than likely, for the Cincinnati Reds. If you want to convince yourself he has more than 5 games at Great American Ballpark, be my guest, but he's gone. I'm going to go appreciate it, and I'm sorry, but I will go to the next 5 games down there. Every single one of them.
Yeah, I'll be there tonight. If anybody wants to, we can take over a whole section. God knows there won't be enough people there to fill up a section. So everybody will go down there tonight. We'll meet up. If you don't want to go, that's fine, but I'll be there with some of my friends, and we'll see what we do. Reds need fans right now. This is the most exciting time. I make fun of the Cubs. I make fun of their poverty franchise. Here's the thing about the Cubs. They have 60,000 people wanting to go to a game every single night. There's about 40,000 people that go every single night. When I went to that game on, what was that, a Tuesday? Or Wednesday? Whenever I went with Reed in a regular season game in August, it was an electric factory. It was sold out. Everybody was standing up, cheering, having a good time. They know how to have a baseball team. They know how to support their team. The Reds, if I'm going to be honest, they haven't done it a whole lot over the past 10 years. I know there hasn't been much to celebrate. I get it. I understand it. I think I don't agree with the Castellanis, but that's whatever. Attendance has risen this year. It's risen significantly. It's been one of the major changes in baseball. If you look at the attendance numbers throughout the year, there have been more people going to Reds games. But this is the most important time to go. It's 10 o'clock. There's 10 games left. It's 6:40. Tickets aren't expensive still. I mean, these are borderline playoff games every series, and they're still $12. And here's the thing about this. You buy the nosebleeds, which is what I'll be doing tonight. I'll be buying the cheapest ticket possible, and I'll be having the best seats in the house. I'll be moving all the way down, 10 rows up from the field. So go do that. It's not like, again, I know if you're 45 minutes away, an hour away, I get it.
Yeah, that's a more than a fair point. Mr. Mo said he lives 2 hours away. You can't go. I mean, that's obvious. But to sit here and say that there's only 3,000 people at the stadium because there's people that live too far away, there's kids at school and all that, come on. Come on. I'm looking at the tickets right now. If you want to go to Joey Votto's last home game he'll ever play at Great American Ballpark, and I see people in the chat saying, well, how do you know that? How do you know that? Guys, take the blinders off. Take them off. It's a $7 million buyout or whatever the hell it is. He's hitting like 210. He's got his replacement staring right at him. CES is his name. Does it mean I think that he shouldn't play right now? No. It's almost like just because you tell the truth, you hate somebody. I love Joey Votto. These things end. They happen all the time. Not everybody gets to go out like Peyton Manning. And I would argue Peyton Manning went out pretty bad. He won a Super Bowl, but he wasn't a very good quarterback, was he? You name me the last superstar that has gone out on top when he was playing at his peak level. You can count them on one hand. The rest of them, there's more than likely going to be a regression there to where at some point it's just you have to go. I don't mean to sit here and sound prude. I don't mean to sit here and sound like I know more than you or any of those. Joey Votto is not getting picked up. It's sobering. It might stink. It might suck. Whatever term you want to use, go ahead and use it. The guy was on the IL to start the year. He's been abysmal at times this year. He's hit the IL again of late. And lately, he just came back off the IL, and he's played okay. And I hope he gets higher than a firecracker. I hope the SOB hits 12 home runs throughout the remainder of the season and the postseason. But no matter what he does, he will not be around next year because he is not a part of the future unless something crazy happens. If he wants to take league minimum and waive the buyout clause in his contract, maybe. But that's not going to happen. Joey Votto had some comments last night. Here's what he had to say.
I don't think that. I don't think about that. You know, I've had moments where it's crossed my mind, and you know, the nice thing about playing competitive ball is like you're thinking about today's game and performing well, and yeah, as far as you're so caught up in the game, the competition that day. And it feels like this past year plus for me personally, and I'll tangent kind of speaking personally, has been like gone by really quickly. It's been a whirlwind. You know, I feel like since leaving surgery, I've either been rehabbing or attempting to get back into games or being in games and trying to find a competitive style while also doing the rehab, while also kind of not new normaling, but like trying to get back to a strong place physically. And so it's just gone by so quickly. And as far as this being a last homestand, you know, I just, you know, if that's the case, I can't do anything about, I don't want to say I can't do anything about that, but I'm having a really good time playing in really meaningful baseball with like some fun teammates. And so however it shakes out, I'm good. I just want to help out. I just want to play. All I've ever wanted to do is play. It's the most important thing to me.
If you want to see the guys' last game at home, it's on Sunday, September 24th at 1:40. I'm looking at different ticket outlets right now, no free ads. But the bleacher seats right now, section 404, $4, $5, $5, $8. Those are 4 different sets of tickets that you can get for those prices. I don't know if it's been publicly said enough, because I think there's been a lot of media members that don't want to do it. They don't want to say what it is, which is Joey Votto's final season. It sucks. It's just a part of the deal, though. Yes, I have been a fan of teams where this has happened before. It never ends great. The ride is awesome, but it never ends great. Especially when you have one guy who wants to still play and you have a franchise that just realizes that there's options behind that just make more sense. And that's what we have here. I'm not suggesting for a second that you're not a great fan if you don't go to any games. What I am suggesting is that we can't walk around boasting our chest and acting like we're bigger and better as a baseball city than anyone else. That's where my real frustration comes from. Because I think we walk around and we talk about something that we're not. I'm as big of a Reds fan as there is. I've put a lot of time, effort, and energy into trying to produce as much content as we possibly can for the Cincinnati Reds this year, and I'm proud of what we've done. Nick Kirby has been a big reason as to why we've done that. I don't want to act like it's me, because it's not a lot about me either. But I have a job to do every night, and that's to do a post-game show every single night. And I'm going to continue to try to do that the best I can. But I'm not going to sit here and allow people to act like, well, you don't really invest in the team. Well, if I say anything otherwise, that you'll think I'm basically just bragging about what I've done or this, that, and the other. And that's really not what my goal is with this. My goal was to say, let's stop calling ourselves one of the best baseball towns in the country when, objectively, that can't be true if that's what we're going to get when we're 5 games away from the end of the season at Great American Ballpark and the team sits right on the cusp of the playoffs. If you want to make excuses about the ticket prices, go ahead. You can get ticket prices for $5 right now. If you want to tell me that the beer and the food or whatever costs $50 when you get in the ballpark, well, I got news for you. You're allowed to take food into the stadium. You can take drinks into the stadium. you want to tell me you hate the Castellinis, that's fine. I understand that argument as well. I'm not naive to that. You want to tell me that this franchise hasn't been loyal to you, they haven't won enough games, that's fine. But I'll tell you who has been loyal. Spencer, Joey, TJ, Will, Tyler, Alexis. That's why I would go down there. For the dudes that just strapped it up, that were told they were going to suck, they were called every which name in the book before the season started, a bunch of minor leaguers, a bunch of prospects that haven't proven nothing, and all they've done is give me, at least me, maybe not you, but they've given me one of the best rides I've been on to watch a professional franchise in my whole entire life. I feel like the least that I can do is to go try to support them. So I'm going to go support them. You want to call me a fraud for not going to the games? I'll go to every one of them. I don't give a damn. It's not even about that as much as it, again, to be clear, is about the fact of the matter is we have got to be better than what we showed last night. Collectively, it has to be better. So this is, I guess, if you want to call it that, an official announcement. We will be buying season tickets to a specific spot. We'll do the chat poll question of the day right now. If we were to get a group of season tickets, we're going to have two different questions. We're going to do 10 minutes on one, 10 minutes on another one, considering we have 20 minutes left in this show. First 10 minutes are going to be what section? We're not going to do Diamond Club because, quite honestly, I don't think it's realistic financially for a lot of people. We're not going to probably even do the lower level because, on it, again, to be clear, financially, I don't know if it's realistic. Yes, I'm okay with the outfields. I think, and I'm open to discussion. I just think that a ticket price, anything more than $40 a ticket, seems to be getting into a spot where that is a little tough financially to muster, perhaps. Maybe I'll try to lighten the mood around here a little bit, considering I just went full-fledged pitchfork for 20 minutes. But if you go to the stadium, what's the best value in the stadium? We won't go to Reed first because I feel like it will put him in a tough spot there. But Elliot, your favorite spot in the stadium, I would actually go, for me, the mezzanine.
Mezzanine is the one right below the top, right?
Middle.
Yeah, it's the one in the middle. It's only down the third base line because the other side's the clubs.
Yeah. My personal favorite is I think it's section 404, I want to say. It's the little section right it's in the third deck, but it's the little section below it. It's kind of separated off a little bit. It goes all around the stadium there. Yep. It's just that little section. I think it's going to be cheap prices. It's a great view.
My favorite spot in the stadium is I like sitting in the outfield. I like sitting in the sun moon deck. So,
all right. So we got the view level. Casey, these are your options. View level /
I've got the price.
How about this? View level - home plate, because that's view level all the way out in the outfield is much different than having view level right behind home plate. So we'll do view level - home plate. We'll do mezzanine. We'll do outfield, and we'll do. Can I say no view level? Because we only got 4 options, right, Casey? How many options are you allowed to do?
4.
4 options.
You want the prices?
What's the chat popping? Is the chat saying we need to do something?
They're saying 400 a lot.
All right, we'll do 400 level. We'll do mezzanine. I feel like the mezzanine's a 400.
Everything besides the infield box is, if you're looking at like down the line, it's $2,200 per ticket for the season. The sun and moon deck's $2,200 for the season. The mezzanine's $2,000. If you look at view level and bleachers, it's about $1,000 for the season. So yeah. What is that? What would $2,200 be divided by 8? 22 divided by 8, that's like $30 a ticket for the season. So that's when you're looking at like down the line in the sun and moon deck. But if you get inside the box, like infield box is $4,300 a ticket. That's way too expensive. And then the field box is $2,800 a ticket, which I'd still say is too expensive. But you look down the terrace line, sun, moon deck, terrace outfield, mezzanine. Those are all around $2,000.
It's all about value, right? Fred says he's in section 103. Come sit with him. Oh, Fred, I'll tell you what. I might. All right, to be clear, what are we doing here? We're doing 400.
Outfield, mezzanine, and view level home plate.
I'm thinking about changing view level of home plate to infield box, just because.
All right, that's
be
what I'm
curious.
putting
Yeah, do that.
Has it ever been weird to you that the numbering of the section starts in left field and wraps around? Like sitting behind home plate's like 120 as opposed to being like 101. And like most stadiums, they do like odds are on one side, evens are on the other, and they start at home plate and they go out. It's always bothered me that like you get a ticket for like 104 and you're like, dang, I got really good seats, and you get there and you're like, oh wait, I'm out in left field again. I've always thought that was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that the seating, like the numbers in and of themselves, I never understood why there isn't just one. Why do we have to go like 101? Why not just go
11?
Why not just go 1 through whatever it is, and
Oh,
and then jump up to the 100 or the 200s after that? I mean, I get the concept of it. It's just always like
It's levels.
levels. That's all it is. But at the same time, I don't know. There's something about being in section like 5 that sounds much better than 105 or whatever it is. I don't know what that is.
Just like I said, I think it'd be great if they just started like 100 is home plate, and then like evens are down the right field line and odds are down the left field line, and you just know where you're at depending on. Instead, you get 126 and you got to remember where's that at again. Oh, those are actually great seats. I'm right behind home plate. Why is 126 directly behind home plate? It's never made sense to me.
Yeah. So to be clear, here's what we're going to do. We're going to figure out and again, some of this comes down to value and seating and what's available and what's not. The first 10 minutes, we're going to allow, as I said, we got 3 minutes left on here on this poll. Just trying to get a feel for it here. Outfield's popular. The only thing about outfield that I don't like, I guess, is just the infield play. It's hard to really see what's going on in the infield when you're above in the 400s of the mezzanine. You got a decent chance to look down and kind of see what happens in the infield. Certainly when you're in the outfield, though, it does feel like you're kind of more closer to the action, per se, in a way. But I don't know. You said you like the outfield. You love the 400s. I'm more of a mezzanine type 400 level kind of guy myself. Obviously, the infield box towards the end of the rows. Can I say something, too, about the net? I noticed that I got really good seats one time from somebody, and I sat really like 5 rows back from the field, but I was down the line just a little bit. I feel like those were terrible seats because of the net. The angle of the net, you could actually see the net versus when you're looking at it from like dead on, it really just you
got to be like 10 rows back from the net for it not. It doesn't play a factor if you're like 10 rows back, but when you're up against it, then it plays a factor. It actually devalues those seats a little bit.
Yeah. Anyways,
I like the outfield because the vibes are better. I feel like the fans are a little more rowdy out there. I like that.
Elliot doesn't like that.
That's right. I don't like that. I mean, I guess that's how they do it over there at Wrigley. But to be fair, our outfields are vastly different from yours. We've got ball hawks running around out there trying to push kids over. I won't mention who, but I mean that's just the fact. I mean, I'm trying to watch a game. I'm not. I mean, but I won't, that's all I'll say about that. Yeah, 400 levels are good. Pretty much anywhere in this. Again, here's the thing about these tickets. It really doesn't matter where we buy them because nobody's going to show up, so we can just move down anyway. That's the bottom line. That's the truth.
That's a fair point. I didn't want to bring this up earlier because I try to stay out of the red stuff just so everyone doesn't hate me. But to add context to what you guys were talking about with the fans not showing up yesterday, I looked up what every other team in the NL Central, what the attendance of their most recent home game was. Obviously, the Cardinals and Cubs had over 30,000 people. The Brewers had over 30,000 people. So the one team you can compare yourself to is the Pittsburgh Pirates, and the Pittsburgh Pirates in their most recent home game had 29,000 fans.
Yet you want to tell me that it's a I'm sitting on my high horse. It's hard to argue that that's a baseball town and that's okay. The Pittsburgh Pirates are drawing 29,000.
Now, it was a weekend and the Yankees were in town, but
Oh, here we go.
I was just saying it was the most recent home game.
Yeah, I know the Pittsburgh Pirates, without a question, have probably similar attendance to us in all aspects. But at the same time, the Pittsburgh Pirates are a dead franchise right now. They legitimately are in the basement, outside the Cardinals, clearly. I don't know. We'll see.
Outfield wins the poll, by the way.
Outfield wins the poll. Okay, well, we'll see what they have. No promises, but we'll see what they have. All right. The last 10 minutes are this, and we'll keep the banter going throughout this poll. But the last poll is this: would you rather have lower, how do I say this? A lower row full season, so you'd have some weekdays. So like if you were drafting, there's a chance where you have to pick a weekday game. Or do you want just the weekend package, worse row? But actually, better seats all days, worse seats weekends only. Understand. That's probably the best of the two. That's all. It's two options. And you still get a chance to get the weekends, obviously. You get every single game. But as they say, when you get all 81 games, Elliot, some of those happen to be on weekdays. And when you're drafting, which is how this goes, right? Let's just say, for instance, we get 25 people in this group. My guess is we'll get more, but let's just say we get 25 people in this group. Everybody gets 2 games. Those 2 games cost you whatever. For 2 tickets, it costs you $80, whatever it ends up being. You're also part of a pool where you get raffled off to get the opportunity to buy opening day tickets. You're also in the pool to get raffled off to get a chance to buy playoff tickets to every single game that the Reds play at home. And I do believe they are on the cusp of being that. Remember when the Bengals season tickets were scoffed at, and you could buy them, no problem. You want to buy them, you can buy them. And then Joe Burrow came to town, and all of a sudden, good luck getting season tickets. They're gone. I guess I'm shooting my shot. I think this young group's going to bring some special opportunities to watch Reds baseball in the near future. I'd like to have an opportunity to get face value tickets to the most meaningful games that could be played at that ballpark in the foreseeable future. How much do you think World Series tickets would go for if it was in this town?
5,000.
Ooh, I don't think 5,000. I think you get view level ticket if the Reds play
Just
in the
getting in $400.
I think $400 to $500 for view level, 100%.
No way.
Dude,
World Series game in Cincinnati?
Chicago, for the Cubs playing in the World Series for the first time since 1945, they weren't $5,000 for view level.
I mean, standing room only maybe, but standing room only is $500.
I would tell you that view level tickets will be less than $500 for the Reds playing in the World Series.
I would say probably I would say $1,000. $5,000 is too much. $1,000.
I'd bet pretty good money that it'd be under $500. Now anything in the lower bowl I think is going to go run you $1,000, but just to get to the field, get in the stadium, I think $500 is more than enough.
Yeah, Kirby says standing room only, Game 7 of the World Series, $700.
Yeah, I think at Wrigley Field they were quite considerably more. But
Parker Perry in the chat saying there were 15,000 people there yesterday. If there were 15,000 people there yesterday, I guess I missed it, because there was legitimately nobody in that ballpark. And if you need me to tell you that, then you need your eyes checked, because there were not 15,000 people in the ballpark.
To be fair to him, he probably checked the attendance record. There's a very vast difference between what they report and what actually occurred. I don't even know why they do that. I really don't. It really irritates me that they always say that the number of tickets sold. Just let us know what the gate is. I want to know how many people walk through the turnstiles. Now I know they don't have turnstiles. Maybe they can't. Yes, they can. They scan the damn tickets. So as soon as they scan the ticket, there's no doubt in my mind they know how many people actually entered the stadium. Not how many they sold, but how many people actually came in. To be fair to him, but go ahead. You can continue to say that.
Well, no, I was just gonna. I mean, there was objectively, there was 5,000 people at that ballpark. Maybe, I mean, if you want to say 8,000, I'll go to 8,000. But if you have a brain and you look at the seats and you see that the entire sections are empty, there's not 15,000 people at that ballpark. You're saying a third of the ballpark was there yesterday? No, nobody.
Yeah. This isn't about whether you're a good fan or not a good fan. That's not what this is about. This isn't about, oh, you have to go to the games to be a good fan. That's clearly an idiotic statement. That's just a dumb statement. It's just that don't go beating your chest around town. Don't go to Reds Fest. Don't go around town in the offseason and say this is a great baseball town and it's one of the best baseball towns in the country. Because until I'm proven otherwise, until I see with my own eyes that we, and I say we, collectively as a fan base, outdraw average franchises, it's hard for me to really say that with a straight face. This franchise, to be clear, has unbelievable baseball history. It has unbelievable baseball history. And it has great fans. A lot of the fans, I get it, are not around the ballpark. There's a lot of fans in West Virginia. There's a lot of fans in Tennessee, probably. There's a lot of fans, obviously, in Kentucky, Indiana, certainly outside the suburbs of Cincinnati as well. Me and Nick do a show every single night, and there's 300-plus people in it. We love the fact that there's that much support for a team that we love. And I can't tell you how much we appreciate that. And our podcast numbers do unbelievably well. And I will tell you that we love that support. This isn't about the fact that there's not enough support for the Reds. It's just about the fact that we can't. We just can't be that bad again. Not when we're begging for a playoff team for the first time in how long? Yes, I get COVID. I get 2021. But this team, again, deserves our support. Maybe you could say the front office doesn't. Maybe you could say the ownership group doesn't. But it does seem like a losing battle if you're just going to sit there and try to fight the man your whole life and say that you don't want to go enjoy something because somebody that's got $1 million+ bucks and you're going to show them. Maybe I'm a loser for saying that. Maybe I have a loser's mentality for thinking that. And if everybody had the same mentality as you, I'd 100% agree. You'd get somewhere. But that's not what's going to happen. The Castellinis are going to own this franchise for as long as they'd like to own it. And I'm going to support the damn players because I think they deserve our support. All right, poll looks like it's pretty considerable. At least it did the last time I checked. Pretty considerable. People rather have better seats and have weekday games as a part of the options or the opportunities that you have to pick from. So that basically tells me that you get the full season ticket plan.
Yep. And I think it's the right option, if I'm going to be honest, because you get, and again, I know this isn't the point of these seats, but you can literally sit wherever you want during the weeknights. So, I mean, you're going to have great seats. It's going to be worth the price.
Okay. Fair enough. Until, and I do believe this, until we have a team that's going to win 90-plus games.
The Reds right now rank 18th in the MLB with an average of 24,000 fans.
Yeah, I think they're 11th in the National League.
Which isn't good. But right now, we have a game to win tonight. Fernando Cruz is starting the game. He will be an opener, and we'll just do a bullpen game. The bullpen's carried us this far. They'll continue to carry us now. I will be there. If you are going to the game tonight, we can take over a section. You come DM me, you tweet at me, you do something, we'll take over a section tonight. Reds going to win against the Twins. We get a series win. I'll sing another song again tonight. If the Reds win a series, we'll sing a song. We'll sing a song.
What song is it going to be? You got one on the top of your head that you're thinking, or no?
I think I told Reds Daily it would be like an All-American Rejects song. So we'll see. I don't know yet. It'll be a vibe thing. It'll be what I'm feeling.
All right.
But I'll be there. So will you be there or not?
Yeah, I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice. I'm not gonna let people bully me and say that I'm not supporting this team because I'm not down there. You can't tell people not to go down to the ballpark when you don't go yourself. I'm gonna go. I'm going. I literally will be there. Am I gonna do the show right inside the stadium with you? I don't know. Maybe that's what we'll do, Elliot. I'll make sure my phone's good and charged, And I'll have Nick Kirby send me a link. But I do want to at least end on this. The Cincinnati Reds have been a blessing this year. And Joey Votto has been a blessing to watch for his entire career. If you can't get to the ballpark to enjoy it in person, at least soak up the moments that we have left with Joey. And I am holding out hope. A little small portion of my heart wants to believe and is willing itself and almost trying to speak it into existence that Joey Votto is going to get an opportunity to play a home playoff game somehow, some way. I know what that means. I know that means that we have to break the longest drought in MLB history in order for that to happen. Is that far-fetched? Maybe. But I'm going to believe it. But the percentages and the odds say these are the last 5 home games that Joey Votto will ever play at Great American Ballpark as a Cincinnati Red. Take it for what it's worth. But we do this show every single day, Monday through Friday, from 10 to 12
PM.
Which means
Eastern Standard Time.
Which means
Daylight savings time.
We will be back here better than ever tomorrow. We hope you join us. Hopefully you still enjoy the show. Don't take for what I said too personally, but we just got to be a little bit better. And we will be. And we will be. Much love to you all. Maybe I'll see you tonight. If not, I hope to see you tomorrow right here back on this very place that we call YouTube and the internet. Love you. See you tomorrow.